We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Welcome back to Liberty Nation Radio. We're continuing our conversation with longtime host of this here show, Mr. Tim Donner. Now, earlier we were talking about whether the voters for 2024 election, whether their decision is already made ahead of Donald Trump's recent guilty verdict in Manhattan. But then we just started beginning the talk about the margins of votes. And I think this is such a fascinating topic, Tim. And you mentioned that 25 to 30% of black voters appear to be shifting towards Trump. Is that correct?
Well, the shift is occurring among black men, not among black women. Black women have always been Trump's most difficult group to speak to or get votes from. Black men are a different story because, without doing stereotyping, but studies have shown that, black men respect strength. I think they saw that strength in Obama, too. I think they see it in Trump. Of course, that doesn't mean he's going to win a majority of black men. But I think, much like 2020, it's like a mirror image of 2020 when people voted for Biden when they really were just voting against Trump. And I think it's going to be the reverse this time because it seems inconceivable to so many people that this 81-year-old man who's showing every bit his age can make it through another 4 years. And if he can't, what's the solution? Kamala Harris. That's a non-starter with the great bulk of Americans.
Very much so, yeah. She's, as we have pointed out before, now that Mitch McConnell is away from leadership positions, she is the most unpopular political leader in the country.
That's true. Now, let me intervene with one point about Mitch McConnell, who famously probably hates Donald Trump more than any other Republican, if not prominent Republican, in the nation's capital. And yet, after this verdict, even Mitch McConnell came out and said this case should never have been brought. So you can see where Trump is getting McConnell and all sorts of other Trump skeptics in the Republican Party to almost be forced to come to his defense and vote for him because of the way that they're trying to beat him.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems that perhaps this was the only event in history that could have united what has for a very long time been an incredibly fractured GOP. I mean, I think even Mitt Romney.
Isn't that the greatest irony of all of this?
Isn't it just? Mark? Isn't it just? I think even Mitt Romney's on board.
Yes. Mitt Romney. That's a good point. He came out and criticized the case. And Mitt Romney is probably right behind Mitch McConnell in terms of Capitol Hill Republicans who hate Trump.
Of course, Adam Kinzinger, the former GOP rep, he is still not getting back on the Trump train, as it were. Let's continue.
He's a coward. He didn't run for office again because he knew when he came out against Trump that he couldn't win again. So instead of prosecuting his case in a primary, he just up and quit while, throwing daggers as he's walking out the door. That's not somebody that people generally react to very well.
Throwing daggers and tears, as I'm sure people have seen him on TV.
The crier.
Adam Kinzinger. Now, let's get back to these margins.
That's very good. That's a nice formation, Mark.
So we're talking about the slight margins that are shifting over to Donald Trump, especially among black men. Now, I think this is really important to point out because in each of the key swing states, that we'll be talking much deeper about the swing states later on, but in each of those, there's a big population center. And if you look at the electoral maps, what you tend to find is a sea of red for each of the counties, and then one or two deep blue places, which
dots.
Little dots, little yins in the yangs or yangs in the yings, depending on which way you want to look at it, of blue. And those are really heavy population centers, and they can swing an election. So even if every other county in a battleground state goes for Republicans, if the turnout is strong in these little blue dots, well, that can swing the entire state.
Yes.
And I think that's where it's so important when you're doing the electoral breakdown to focus on the margins. So if black men are moving away from Joe Biden, now they don't necessarily have to move towards Donald Trump, but if their turnout is lower, then that dilutes what's happening in that little blue dot. Now that blue dot will still be blue. I think we're all agreed that some of these major population centers are not going to switch to Donald Trump. But it will
It's
be...
not a matter of switching. It's more a matter of draining some of the vote, some of the great majority vote that Democrats always get away. I mean, like Trump's not going to win the black vote, but he doesn't have to. He may not win, or he may, the Hispanic vote. But what matters is that he's taking precious percentage points away from Biden, from what Biden had in 2020.
And of course, as you did point out earlier, he's forcing Joe Biden to work his campaign, which we will be talking about further down the line, to work his campaign.
Well, okay, if you look at the fact that Joe Biden had to go to Philadelphia and hold a black voters for Biden-Harris opening. Let me tell you something, Mark, having covered politics for a long time and followed it since an early childhood. If you have to be going to your base voters and asking them to vote for you 5 months before an election, people that should have been long ago locked up as Democrat votes, if he's still having to spend time trying to attract the black vote, that is an ominous sign for his campaign. Good point.
I'm going to ask for a quick prediction on this, Tim. Do you think that Donald Trump, do you think he'll break records across demographics in this election?
When you mean in terms of turnout?
Yes.
I don't think they can beat the number of voters that voted in 2020. It was about a 64% turnout. I don't think it's going to be that high this time because there's a lot of enthusiasm for Trump, but there's not a lot of enthusiasm on the other side. The vote for Trump is with enthusiasm. The vote for Biden is almost what you would call a mercenary vote because there's nobody that is enthusiastic about Joe Biden. But there's a lot who are skeptical of Donald Trump. And so that's what he's going to have to hang his hat on. And that's his whole campaign, by the way, from here on in. For Joe Biden, his entire campaign is that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy.
We'll be talking about that campaign when we get back after this short break. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.